All right. Well, the 24-hour race happened last Saturday and Sunday. Um, Probably one of the best ones we've seen in a while, not just because it's the most recent, but we have several stories to go over with that. And I have with me tonight Rick. How you doing tonight?
Hey guys, how's it going?
So we got a lot of stories out there. Obviously, in a 24-hour race, there's a lot of things that happen. We got the day race, and then transition into the night, and then the night transitioning into day, and all sorts of things happening. Let's just start off right off the bat with some beef on track, I guess you could call it. Some incidences that happened with the 48 car, the 4, and the 1. Um, there was some
Yeah,
blocking going on there, some issues early. I mean, well, let's start with the fact that the 48 dominated the first 8 hours of GTD Pro, right? I
yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
he was very very good, and then he got bumped off track when a GTP had an issue, right? And so clearly not happy at all of that. Early on in the race there wasn't a whole lot of things, but that was one that happened. He got slid through, and then next thing you know, he's down. But it was further on into the race, and he was blocking. The 4 was trying to get around him. He's a lap down. The 4 is trying to get around him. Or the 4 is trying to block him, or get around so that the 1 car can get the lead from the 4. There, jeez. Um, so he's trying to go around, trying to get him, and 48 was like, well, I'll just block for my teammate here, the 1 car, and they made contact. The 1 and the 4 did, and 48 shouldn't have been there. Honestly, I mean, your take.
Yeah, I mean the GTD Pro and that whole race, that battle between BMW and Corvette, I think really stole the show for the Daytona 24. Um, Especially there at the end. I didn't see BMW, dominating the early part, the 48, but I caught the end there where it was the 48 after their problems throughout the race. They were about 55 laps down, and they were blocking, I think, the 4 car for a while. And
Yep.
um, yeah, and it got very intense there for a while. All those cars, you could just throw a blanket over them. And then if I don't know if you've seen it, Matt, but the memes online
Oh yeah.
where
Oh
yeah, with
yeah.
the middle finger hanging out the window, and then I've seen some other ones where they overlay it and make it look like the iRacing logo. I mean, it's so fitting.
Yeah, there's
I think
there's
we've all
even
been
guys
there.
on Discord, in our iRacing Discords, there's even guys on there that have it as their banner picture now. You know what I
Oh,
mean? It is huge.
fantastic.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so if you didn't see it, just to fill you in, after that whole incident, the 48 car goes to pit, and the 4 car just gives him the bird going down the front stretch. And
Yeah.
there's pictures everywhere, and it's a huge deal. So the result of that story, though, is that the 48 gets a penalty. I think that's why he pitted. I think that, it's like a pass through or something.
Yeah, there
Um,
was a drive-through.
yeah, so drive through penalty. So he gets flipped the bird. And I'm looking at it like that's a team. I don't know if it was team orders. I don't know, and it's hard to say on the track. And I was kind of waiting to see if some news would come out. But don't you penalize the 1 car there too? I mean, this team is working together against the guy, makes him have contact, and kind of ruins his race. To be honest, I mean, he was leading. He was leading by quite a bit. There's a lot of things that go into that. There was other cautions. There was, other cars that did well, but with those cautions, they got to catch back up. And you could play it 100 different ways, honestly. But I was kind of thinking, hey, the 1 car needs a penalty here too. Maybe not in race, but post race. I don't know. Have you ever seen that? Is that even something that would ever happen?
Maybe. I know when it was happening, they got at least on the IMSA radio broadcast, they actually interviewed some of like the team principal over at Corvette, and they're like, what do you think of this? They're like, well, it's really against, I'm paraphrasing here, it's really against the spirit of sports car racing. I mean, to use a car that's 55 laps down to back up a competitor into your teammate, I that it you see it in other series, maybe like
Formula.
Formula One.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and
Yeah.
actually NASCAR kind of dealt with this issue too at Martinsville, I think, in the playoffs, that whole race fixing thing. So
Yeah.
I think it is frowned upon in motorsports, but uh, I don't see a penalty to the one as maybe necessary. They were racing as clean as possible. There was some contact. I think I'm looking at the replay of the middle finger right now, and actually the Corvette, it has part of its bumper missing from
Yeah,
some of that.
it tore the left rear bumper off.
Yeah, yeah,
Really messed him up. And so,
right.
it's like, and that's why I said it messed him up because he was leading. He was a very strong car, and then just that little tweak in aero, that means everything. And maybe if it was a 3 hour race, he could have got away with it. But in a 24 with that much time, because there was at least 8 hours left in the race,
Right.
there's no way that he can sustain speed for that amount of time with that loss of aerodynamics. So it really screwed him up. Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of hard to penalize the one, but on another point, I remember a while back in NASCAR there was Michael Waltrip Racing, and they exited the sport because they were race fixing to get a car into the playoffs and make sure that their guy got there, and they fined them so bad that they never returned to NASCAR the next season. It was over. They
Oh,
shut down the
oh
shop.
wow. Oh yeah.
So I mean, but hey, nothing like that has really happened since. You know what I mean? So not to that degree anyway. Racers are always going to try to bend the rules, and that's kind of that fine line. Is racers are going to be racers, and if what the saying goes, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And so that's going to happen. But I mean, giving the guy the pass through is the right thing to do. I just don't know if you can do anything to the one. But that Corvette did hit the one. Uh,
Yes.
10 minutes left in the race and hit him, and you got to think that's kind of on purpose.
Yeah, they're at the end. I mean, and that is several spots. I mean, you could
Yeah,
they're at the end and they were all so close together.
yeah,
It was on purpose. There's no doubt about it.
yeah.
Like that was intentional wrecking for sure. And I think he got a drive through for that as well. I mean,
If not a
the
post, he definitely got a post race. I didn't see it, but you just can't do that. It's
yeah,
obviously going to be a problem.
yeah.
So yeah, that was the most, aside from 8 hours into the race when they literally lit fireworks. That was probably the most fireworks in the race. The most heated, tense. Like, hey, these guys have lost their cool. Now we see it in iRacing all the time, right? I mean, guys could be in a 3 hour race and lose their cool. These guys are going on 16 hours and just absolutely, he lost it. He's mad. He's 10 minutes to go. He's 23 hours and 50 minutes in, and he's like, I don't care. I'm sending him. And I just think
Yeah.
it's funny, but at the same time, it sucks because the rest of the drivers on the team itself, it's like, hey, man, what are you doing? Like, they're not happy.
Right. It's IMSA's NASCAR moment, and it happened in the 24. It's not something you normally see in sports car racing. I think they have a code of conduct, some unspoken rules, some rules of the road, and
Yeah.
they were pushing them for
Yeah.
sure.
And you got to think from IMSA standpoint, okay, you don't want those things to happen, but I mean, look at the publicity. This sport is picking up hugely. IMSA is absolutely taking off in the United States. I'm talking about, and it's becoming more and more popular. And this whole situation and the fact that the 4 car giving them the bird is going viral. This is just free marketing.
Yeah,
It's the
great.
best thing that could happen for them to kick off their season. Really.
Absolutely. I really think the sport's grown. I'm sort of a newcomer myself. I kind of got into it really big. I always watch the 24 because I'm starved for motorsports come January,
Yeah.
and I always know that racing's getting back when the 24 comes around, and I always watch it just about every year. But I actually went to my first IMSA race at VIR last year, and that was a fantastic experience. Like the
Yeah.
the spectator experience for IMSA is unmatched. I mean, you get to go do a grid walk for a general admission ticket, and you can get right up on the cars and sneak a little touch on Rexy there if you're
If you're brave enough.
and yeah, if you're brave enough. And yeah, it was just an incredible experience. Yeah,
Yeah, they just got them all out there, and you're like, I could literally touch this and take a picture, but I feel like there's somebody that's gonna jump out of the weeds and like tackle me or something. Like I'm not supposed to be
yeah,
here.
yeah.
uh,
And IMSA's doing some really cool things to get people excited, and particularly AO Racing, Rexy and
yeah,
Spike,
yeah,
PJ Hyatt. What they're doing with their branding and their marketing, I think it's revolutionary in motorsports. And I just having a green dinosaur running around, like
yeah,
it's a party if you walk down near the AO guys, at least at VIR during the track walk. Everyone was just congregated around
yeah.
that car.
It's
And
iconic.
I,
Yeah,
yeah,
everybody loves those cars. They did Spike that a little while ago. Rexy obviously took off, and that's why they did that. And it's just a really cool, just a little added fold. That is just something that I think gets the younger generation involved. It's like, oh, that's a cool car. Cool. That car's got teeth and jaws all across the front of it.
yeah,
And then
absolutely,
and then there's us like nerdy adults that have it on our car in iRacing because it's like
yep.
cool.
Yeah.
So
One race a year they do Roxy, and the whole idea behind that is getting women excited about motorsports, or young girls like to attach themselves to that character as well. So I
yeah,
I I wonder if one day that, cars, maybe we'll see a car in NASCAR where instead of a corporate sponsor on the car, they develop a brand through a character and generate interest in their car and their team through that. I wonder if, cars in the future or teams in the future will kind of pick up on that, and it might be a common thing.
try to do like generational or categorical branding so that they can get people out. And I'll tell you, I,
Right.
I don't think there's any sport that doesn't want something like that. It's just a matter of how do you do it.
Yeah.
And they over there at the AO, they have figured it out. They got a lot of buzz around that, and when they're at the track, everybody wants to go see that car, and so they're doing really good out there. But yeah, let's move on to some of the other stories. So I think one of the biggest stories, aside from the sparring with cars, is the Multimatic Motorsports, which is the Fords, uh, really really showed us something in the 24. Let's just face it. Last year, there was their first year. It wasn't the greatest. I don't think they even got a podium the whole year. But they're trying to figure it out. They're going to tracks for the first time. They're trying to figure out their aero and their balance of power, and what they have to work with, and to come out to the 24 and qualify 1-2 was, first of all, that was a huge deal. Um, you know, that was a statement in and of itself. But then to go through the race the way that they did, they had great speed. Now, at the beginning of the race, let's say the first 4 to 6 hours, they did kind of fall off. They weren't leading. I think they were like third and fifth after about 5 or 6 hours. And they were just kind of feeling it out. Hey, it's a long run. We don't need to do that, which is probably good because that's in the same time frame that the 48 got thrown off the track because of a GTP in a problem in front of it. So if they had been leading, that may have been them. Either the 64 or the 65. So slower start, got themselves into rhythm, and then really just kind of settled in and had a great run.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really worked in their favor is they stayed out of that sparring, and kind of had a quiet race through the middle of the night, and they were there at the end. I remember last year, it was either in the Roar or the 24. They had their trunk was hanging open, and they didn't have any speed at all, and
Yeah, had to
the
tape it
the G
down.
right, and it is a brand new car. I mean, you learn how to find speed the longer you work with it, and your team gets used to the car. Um,
Right.
yeah, they they didn't show a lot of speed in either World Endurance Championship or IMSA the previous years. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I think one thing that was really working in their favor was kind of staying out of trouble and just logging laps and being there at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin Cindric was in that 64 car, NASCAR driver, and he did a good job. He kind of had a slower start when he got into his stint at night. He kind of was feeling it out as well, kind of a slower start, but then he settled in, and later on he did really well. And it was good to see. It was good to see a NASCAR guy out there. You get maybe one a year or so, and I think that was his first one, if I'm not mistaken. So good to see him out there not having any issues, no off tracks or anything like that. He did good.
Yeah, it's all as NASCAR fans, it's so cool to see our drivers out there with the sports cars. I think he has had a little bit of road racing experience in the past. I think I heard that he did helped with the Mustang GT4 program, kind of
Yeah.
things like that. But yeah, he had some solid stints. Nothing spectacular, blue, but he kept the car going, and that's what you need to do in these longer races.
Yeah, just keep it on track, right? And you see that in
Yeah.
iRacing too, even in 3 or 6 hour races. It's like just have the least amount of problems. If you have less problems than the other guy, you're gonna finish way better than him. So he kept it together. He did good. So ultimately, the 65 wins the GTD Pro, and 64. Which was the pole sitter, 64 was, they get third. So they go 1-3. That's a great turnout. I mean, I'm really looking forward to what Ford can bring the rest of this year. If this is any indication of their improvement over the last year, they're going to be somebody to watch as far as getting podium on the championship.
It's the best sounding car on the track too.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't beat the fire out the tailpipe, but still, that sounds great.
Oh, here comes America, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Oh,
One of the other things that was really crazy was once it went to night, it was really cold in Daytona,
yeah.
colder than some of the past races there, and I particularly noticed that the LMP2s were having like a lot of lockups, and not just on outlaps. It was so cold, the tires were staying at a low temperature, the track was at a low temperature, and they were just having a lot of lockups and a lot of issues in the LMP2s.
Yeah. I'm a night owl, so I watched a lot
Yeah.
of the night racing. And I was just, I turned on the TV and I was watching and I saw the GTP, one of the GTP cars coming out of the pits. And I was like, oh no, there's something wrong with Porsche Penske, number 7. Why are they going so slow? Like GTD Pro cars are driving by them, and
Yeah.
something's wrong with that car. But then I realized, oh, they need 2 laps to get up
Full
to
two
speed.
full laps. Yeah.
2 full laps. Oh yeah, they were going slower than any cars out there on those cold tires, and that's incredible. I did not
It was
realize how sensitive they were to those cold temperatures.
it
I think it
was
was down to the 40s.
Yeah, it was very weird because you're
Yeah.
used to seeing the GTPs burn past the GTDs, right? And the LMPs, and just gap them in a matter of a corner. And then you were watching the GTDs that were out there on warm tires like just go past them, and you're like, what is happening right now? This is
Yeah,
weird. And it was just surreal to watch because you just don't see that, and then you can see the car just jumping and moving it laterally, just yawing out, just
uh-huh.
bouncing on the track in the corners, and you're like, oh gosh, this is like, I would not want to drive that. That looks terrible.
Yeah, that was probably terrifying from the driver's seat, and
It
also tough for the GTDs. Like, oh, what is going on? There's a slow car sitting in front of me.
Well, and imagine some of the ones that are not pro that are still developing, right? They're like,
Yeah,
I don't know what to do right now. Am I supposed to pass him? I can't pass him. That's a GTP car, right? Like, this is
right.
not supposed to happen. Nobody planned for that, and so their spotters and their crew chiefs probably had to they saw that on track, some of the early pits, and then I think they, obviously would relay that to their current driver, like, hey, something's going on with those cars, but just be aware of that when you're out on track there, because that can cause danger when you have something that's not normal like that.
Yeah, and the skill of those drivers. I mean, they were struggling on cold tires, but you didn't see anyone, drop the car or put it in the wall, anything like that. I didn't.
Yeah.
But did you see the big one in the middle of the night? The incident with Kobayashi and
I saw it.
some
I
of the
didn't see it
GTPs?
live. I was
Uh,
sleeping when it happened, but I saw it back later. Yeah.
yeah, I was watching the radio feed and it they didn't catch it right away, and I saw it happen right before me. And I was like, duh, my jaw dropped, and
Yeah.
That was the big one. I mean, it was heartbreaking for I think there was a Lambo and the Cadillacs. I mean,
Yeah.
there's yeah, online people are talking about how Cadillac GTP programs are cursed. Um, they can't finish a race, or they have these crazy things that happen
Just
that are
weird
out of
things
their
happen to him a
control.
lot.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kobayashi was a fan favorite too. He was in the car. I think he had just gotten out after having a crazy fast stint. And if anyone doesn't know about Kobayashi, he's a team principal over at Toyota Gazoo, I think, in World Endurance Championship. So he's a huge name over in Europe racing. I think he's a former F1 driver as well, I think. But he was
Yeah,
crazy
I think he
fast.
is.
Somehow he got a deal. He got a deal with Cadillac to race the Daytona 24,
Yeah.
and he put on a crazy good stint. But right after he got out, the car was done for.
Yeah, it's just that's got to be devastating as a driver. Like you like okay, I've been in the car for 3 hours now, and you get out, and then a new driver goes in, and then boom, and you're like, all that was for nothing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I mean, you can't, it's racing, and you can't get too upset at the driver himself, but the situation or whatever. But yeah, that is terrible, and it's not just Cadillac though. Like that happens in racing to a lot of teams. You see it a lot in NASCAR where like you have one year where you can't do wrong, and then the next year you come out and you're like, what's happening? We are snake bit, and
hmm
you're just always in an accident, or you have a mechanical failure, or a tire blows, or a tire falls off, or you know what I mean? It's just like things just snowball, and things snowball both ways, either for good or bad, and that's just part of racing. So I'm sure Cadillac's going to get over it, pretty soon, and start to show people what they're really capable of again. But they're just, yeah, the luck is not there right now.
absolutely, yeah.
And you had mentioned
Um,
something about the LMP2s that happened after the race. What was that?
oh yeah, LMP2. We've had since we last talked. They actually disqualified the winning car.
Yeah.
So I'm on motorsports.com here. Yeah, they disqualified the winning car. That was
And which
let's
car
see,
was
the
that?
number
I forget.
22 ended up winning. So that's United Autosports. They got promoted to first, but the
Okay.
number 8 Orica Gibson
That's right.
'07 crewed by Sebastian Bourdais, John Van Altert, Sebastian Alvarez, and John Farano.
Hmm.
Um,
So it
yeah, they
sounds
were
like what
disqualified.
happened. It sounds like what happened there is their splitter was in the front. I guess it was at the wrong height.
Okay,
So
yeah, excuse me, the Tower Motorsport. That was the name of the team.
tower. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was the plankware. So the underbody of the car, I imagine,
Yeah.
was worn too far down, and that could have been from striking curbs. Maybe they had a low ride height.
Hmm.
Maybe it was the low ride height combined with the banking of Daytona was scraping that car
Sure.
and just slowly chipping away at the underbody.
Or maybe they
Um,
just got really aggressive with tire temperatures because they
oh
wanted,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Because they wanted to keep grip while the track was cold at night. And so you come out on a super low tire pressure, which, hey, I mean, if it lowers your ride height a quarter of an inch and it's scraping, that could do it. So that's kind of a bummer, though, because it's almost like, unless you can show that they did something intentional to the car to gain an advantage, I just can't see taking the win from them. And because that thing scraped too much, I mean, was there a way? And maybe more news will come out, right? But is there a way that they were able to tell, like, hey, this was intentional? Like their ride height is set too low, or like what was that? How did that happen? And how did
I
they?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a black or white issue. Either you're in bounds or you're not with the
Yeah.
the plankware. So I guess it matters less how it happened as the fact that it is, and that's the problem. Um,
So they're gonna
but
have to raise that car for the next race, I guess, or maybe the next race isn't 24 hours, so it won't wear as much. I
or
don't know.
yeah, it could just be a Daytona track specific issue as well. So
It
it's hard
could,
to say.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know if I'm
but
as a team I'm gonna change anything. The car's actually really good. Let's see what the next track holds.
yeah,
Obviously that's a bummer. They got the win taken away, but in everybody's mind they still won. So, you know,
yeah. Uh,
technicality,
the article I'm reading calls it a skid block.
skid block,
But
yeah.
Yeah. But they weren't. I didn't ever see them up front. The two LMP2 cars that I saw up front throughout the whole race are the 99 and 88. The 99 Spike of AO Racing. Most of that race, I don't know if they're off sequence of pit stops or what, but they were 20 to 30 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. But there at the end of the race, the LMP2 cars were having it would seem like engine failures.
Huh.
Both the 99, the 88s had to retire with damage that they couldn't repair, and then um,
Yeah,
the
that's kind of
Tower
weird.
and let's see, what's the other team? United kind of picked up those podiums as a result of cars breaking, falling apart.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the 24 hours is obviously a grueling race, right? I mean, it beats cars up. So it's. I
Yeah,
guess it's not too shocking, but it is kind of. You know, um, it's too bad. I mean, that's. I guess that's just what happens. Um, but unfortunately, it's so if it's one team, it's like, did we miss something here? Are we did we not set this car up or build this thing right?
yeah. I wouldn't want to be on that team having to figure that out. Hopefully, it doesn't
No.
cost them any speed at Sebring later this year, but. Um, Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't feel like the those two cars were the fastest cars anyway. They probably have a lot of speed to gain. Um,
Yeah.
and like you say about a grueling race having an effect on the car, I don't think any other car exemplifies that idea more than the what was it, the number 24 BMW
Yeah.
GTP car,
Yeah.
absolutely falling apart towards the end of the race.
Well, not just car, but driver. I mean, if you think about it, so 24 car in GTP, he takes the pole, right, in that class, and they had a good race. I mean, they were running okay, but just kind of slowly but steadily falling back, and just not having great times. Just nothing serious happened. You can't say like one driver was off pace, or I don't know, it just wasn't really there for him, and just progressively kind of got worse. And then, they go into the last two fuel runs of the race, and Vantor he was driving again, who was the one who set the pole pace, and he has several issues and some contact, and you're like, okay, what's going on? Did this guy get any sleep, or like what's happening here? Because it's falling, the wheels are falling off the bus.
Yeah, that car was porpoising down the backstretch. It was shaking itself apart, and after a
Yeah,
little bit of contact on the bumper, I thought it was all just, the
just
front
gonna come
bumper was
apart
gonna
for
come
sure.
off or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, yeah. I was really rooting for that team though. BMW, a lot like Ford in the GTD program, uh, didn't show a lot of speed in 2023 or when it was introduced, and
Yeah.
but this year everyone was getting really excited for the race, like, oh, BMW's got a shot, they can take on Porsche Penske, um, and they kept up. I mean, I feel like in race trim the Porsche's unstoppable, but
Yeah.
they were there. I mean, they held them to it and kept them on their toes.
Well,
And also the number 24 having Kevin Magnussen with his return to endurance racing after retiring from Formula One. It was super exciting to watch that car.
yeah. Yeah, it was fun to watch him drive and go through it. And I mean, the thing is that Penske is just like, well, first of all, that's back to back Daytona 24 hours for them. Um,
Yeah.
and Penske's just unstoppable. I don't know, what that guy eats for breakfast, but whatever he does, he wins at everything he does. I mean, NASCAR, he wins. Formula, I don't care. Whatever he's in, he's like, I'm just gonna, yeah, we're just winning. That's it. Like it's
Yeah.
nobody, like it's nothing. I mean, he so he obviously, because of his name at this point, he brings in the best talent and has the ability to pay them to keep him, and that obviously plays out on the track. I would look for
Yeah.
BMW to be good in some of the shorter races, though, for sure this year.
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
they have speed. The gruelingness of the 24 hours not good on the car or on the drivers. So but you get into some of the sprint ones that are 3 hours, or they have one or two of them that are 100 minutes. Well, if you sit on the pole for that and it's a 100-minute race, I mean, you got a really good shot of just taking it home. So I would look for BMW to actually have a good season. That I don't know that this is going to be super indicative of what they got for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Uh, Penske, Roger Penske, that's his name, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
Roger.
Yeah. He wins so much that, he didn't even seem excited when his car crossed the line
I
in
know
first
they're
place.
showing
You
him, and
remember
he's
that?
just like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
business as usual."
Like,
You know, like, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Like I knew that was going to happen. That's why I slept all night.
Yeah. He shows up for the very end and,
Yeah, it
he
just
just,
comes out there like, "Oh yeah, of course we won. All right, you guys go celebrate. I'll take a nap." You know, it's
yeah,
just yeah.
didn't even crack a smile.
Let me know when
I
it's
don't
time
know.
to take pictures with the trophies. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Oh
man,
man.
so that's good. Another thing that was kind of cool was the some Aussie drivers, SVG and Scott McLaughlin. They had historically been rivals, right, in the Aussie supercars, and they were teammates, and they worked very well together. They had a really good go in that '91. Um, and it was funny to see their interviews because those guys just talk different, and then they call each other Kiwis, which I really don't understand.
New Zealand. They're from New Zealand.
Is that what it is? Oh, Zealand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why are they
Yeah.
Kiwis though? What does that even
I
mean?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm like,
But
did
yeah,
they
you
grow
hear
a
it all
lot
the
of
time.
kiwi?
It's like
Did they?
oh, the Kiwi. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe yeah.
They grow a lot of kiwis in New Zealand because it doesn't seem
Uh,
like the tropical type place where you would see that. You know,
I
I don't
have
know.
no idea. Maybe
Somebody,
chat can answer for
yeah, I
us.
was just gonna say somebody smarter than us that's listening to this, just give us a comment, let us know because that's confusing me. But it was fun to see him watch. I mean, you know, SVGs is becoming more and more popular in the United States as he races in NASCAR and gets that that publicity and notoriety, and so watching him drive pretty much anything is going to draw a crowd at this point. Um, the other driver, though, the Connor Zilic, this kid is out of control. Like he wins in everything he gets in. If you're not familiar with him, he's a NASCAR truck driver. He won his first Xfinity start. I think he's going to get. He might actually be getting a one time. I think he's getting a one time ride in NASCAR at COTA this year, if I'm not
Yes. He's
mistaken. Yeah.
yeah.
So with that Red Bull slash Trackhouse team, so he's getting a lot of opportunities, and he gets this opportunity in a GT3 car that is just and the guy pulls a triple stint to end the race. Like what a stud! To be 18 years old again, man.
Yeah, he's got a triple stint with two world-class drivers on his team sitting on the bench
Right.
with SVG and Scott McLaughlin. I mean, incredible drivers. Connor Zilic is it's hard to kind of place him in any one series. I mean, yeah, he's a truck driver, but he's also won the Daytona 24 and an LMP2.
Yeah.
He won on his debut in the Xfinity Series. He won, I think, I want to say 9 out of the 11 or some absurd number of his ARCA starts.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, he
yeah.
dominated ARCA. They got him out of there real quick because it was just the Connor Zilic show. They were like,
Yeah,
all right, bump him up.
it's like when that 6,000 I rating guy joins your league
Yeah, you're like, okay,
or
bud.
something like that. You're
Yeah,
like, okay, man, yeah, let's bump you up.
you're
Let's
like,
go
is
somewhere
this
else.
even fun? Like, are
Yeah,
you having
yeah.
fun right now? Because no one else is.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they got him out of there and bought him up. I'm really excited to see like where he goes in his career. I think as long as he can not get himself in trouble personally, like we see with a lot of these young drivers, if he can
Right.
stay out of trouble and keep his head on straight, I think that he's got a really bright future in Cup and wherever he wants to go. Obviously, right now the money is in Cup, so he's probably going to lean towards that, and then like most guys do later on in their career, kind of branch out and do some other stuff that they want.
And
Um,
he's got that Red Bull backing, so that's huge. I mean,
that's good
that's
money. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a really good money sponsor. Red Bull
yeah.
loves racing, all things motorsports. They've been out of NASCAR since 2011. So it's interesting to see them back. I'm sure NASCAR is happy about it because that's a sponsor and money that they didn't have before, and they could use a little fresh blood, a little
Yeah.
infusion.
I
So
imagine SVG probably had something to do with that deal, bringing that Red Bull sponsorship over from his
yeah.
supercar days.
I,
Um,
I
and
definitely believe so because he's racing. He's going to do 5 races in the '88 Red Bull, And then Connor's doing in the 87. He's doing one race at COTA in the other Red Bull car. So there's a total of 6 races they're doing. SVG's doing 5 of them in a different number. So I think he got Red Bull to come over and sponsor that whole venture, or at least was a key component, being the driver for Red Bull to say, okay, yeah, we'll back this guy, you know.
Right.
But they have him at some interesting tracks too. You know, you would think that they would focus him heavy on the road races, but I think he's only doing 1 or 2 of the 5. So I think they're kind of trying to prep him to see if he can get better at the ovals and see if they can get him a full-time ride. So
Yeah.
we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
The last thing I got on the 24-hour was just kind of like an interesting side note for me, and that was Scott Dixon gave an interview on the. He was talking about the newer non-pro GT3 drivers, and he was saying how when they're out there, they focus on their line, and they're just trying to make the lap, make the corner, you know, drive, you know, brake when you're supposed to, accelerate when you're supposed to, and they are not so focused on the cars around them. And this is how the GTPs and LMP2s can creep up on them and, you know, kind of shock them and scare them, because they're so focused on what they're supposed to be doing in the car and not making a mistake that they forget that the part of this race is these other classes coming through, and that causes issue. And I thought, you know, that's a very good way of explaining it. And also, isn't that what happens every single day in iRacing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, if if you know what you're doing, sorta, I guess. I mean, like, it's always a struggle if you're in the faster class in iRacing, and then someone, you know, doesn't quite get the memo, like, hey, if you're a
Yeah.
slower car, hold your line. And then you got to do that little dance back and forth, like, you know, you run into someone in the hallway and you don't know which way
Yeah,
to
this little
go.
weird moment, like, are we dancing or what are
Yeah,
we doing?
so awkward. Oh, by
Yeah.
the way, I looked up Kiwi here for
Oh
us so
yeah,
we don't
cool.
look
Yeah.
silly on it comes from the flightless kiwi bird native to the New Zealand. And
What?
if you look at a picture, it looks just like a kiwi. It's a national symbol.
All right. Very good.
Yeah,
There
there
you
you
go.
go.
There
You
you
learned
have it.
something today.
So settled. All right. That's weird. Okay, so so coming up, let's look forward a little bit here. We have a break, obviously, in IMSA. They race once a month or so, but they actually don't have a race in February, which is a friggin' bummer. But March 12th to 15 will be the Sebring 12-hour, and that's always a fun one too. Everybody loves. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. I guess I love Sebring. It's a fun track to drive. And it's a good race to watch. So looking forward to that one and what everybody, you know, the Fords and those BMWs and the GPT can do. You know, I think it's a completely different thing than Daytona. And then after that, they go to Long Beach in April, and that is also another these are just very different tracks that they're doing. So we're gonna see a lot of different takes of this series and who can do what, and they mix them up. You know, the 24 hours, obviously 24 hours. The Sebring is 12 hours, and then you can go to Long Beach, and it's 100 minutes. So that's a sprint right
Yeah.
there. So yeah, just kind of interesting. What kind of tracks? What are your thoughts, or what are you looking forward to in the series?
Well, I am looking forward to going back to VIR to see the GTD cars
Oh yeah.
again next year. It was an incredible experience, like I was saying earlier, and it's not far from me, so that's the race I go to every year, and it is a blast. If y'all haven't been out to an IMSA race, definitely try to make it out and check it out. It's a great deal, and the experience is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so we'll be covering that, but again, we have a little bit of a break until March, so we'll debrief that race after it happens as well. Moving on to NASCAR, not really much happening in news wise. Everybody's just kind of all quiet on the Western Front. You know, they're getting ready for this Sunday. February 2nd is the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray, is what they're calling it. Bowman Gray is an interesting, tiny little quarter mile, very round. Whereas the Coliseum they had it the last couple of years, that was it was like football shaped, really weird track. This one is going to be interesting as well. It's a single line, single groove, short track. I guess you'd have to push somebody out of the way to kind of make a pass. I don't really see that happening because they're going to want to take care of their equipment. It is a exhibition race, and they don't want to destroy stuff on that. So I just think it's going to be a lot of parading. I don't know.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to shake down the car, knock some of the rust off. Um, I, and you say keep it clean, but the clashes at the LA Coliseum, they trashed some cars.
They did
They
a few,
they were
yeah.
using bumpers and yeah,
Yeah.
and then yeah, cars are having mechanical failures too. I mean, trying to work on getting fine tuned, I guess,
Yeah.
for Daytona. I mean, there's no comparison between the two tracks, but
No. But you're in the
yeah,
car, and
yeah.
and you're right. You kind of knock that dust off. Okay, we're back in the car. Things are happening. And honestly, with the lack of testing that they're allowed to do anymore, you kind of need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of wish they'd bring back practice, more time to watch cars go in circles. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
I mean
I,
it was.
Bowman,
I think it was. They say it's because the lower budget teams aren't able to do it, or can't risk a crash in practice, or what have you. But I always kind of was of the thought that it helped those teams more. I mean, the good teams come and they unload and they're fast. The other
yeah,
teams that aren't so good, that don't have all the engineers, the years of data, and all that stuff, they need the practice.
yeah,
It's not the elite teams, but whatever.
it is what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, oh, and going back to Bowman Gray, I mean that goes back to your origins of NASCAR in that region in North
yeah,
Carolina. Yeah, it's kind of it speaks to NASCAR's history, and it's pretty exciting. Along with that comes upgrades to that facility.
hmm,
You look at pictures of the past. It's in a lot of ways kind of a crude racetrack. There's no interior wall. It looks like a football stadium. I didn't
yeah,
know a whole lot about it honestly until they announced the clash there.
yeah. Well, nobody's been there for a long time, at least not a televised or popular series, right? So it's been a long time
Yeah,
since anybody's been there. They might have been driving the '87s back then. Who knows? Um, but obviously, people in that Winston-Salem area, I mean, they're excited. I mean, like they got a race again. So obviously they're very happy about that. So we'll see how that goes. If drivers want to actually get out there and mix it up, or if they just want to kind of take it easy and hey, let's just get to Daytona. And on that note, so Thursday the 13th is going to be the Daytona duels, right? And there's those two races, and then the 16th, that Sunday, will be the 500, and we'll be covering all of that news and highlights afterwards. And then they go to Atlanta, so the two restrictor plates in a row, which sucks.
they
And
really.
then
Oh yeah, they do. They go
yeah, and then
straight there, don't
then
they?
you go to Coda and Circuit of the America, and so you have two super speedways and a road course. So really, we're going to have to be about 6 weeks deep before we even know like who's actually performing well and going to be good. Because the first two races, you could be a really solid team and get knocked out because you're in somebody else's junk. And road courses are just a different animal, especially Circuit of the Americas. It's a difficult course.
And they shortened that course. They
Yeah,
lopped off a section of that track, which I drove in the sim.
yeah,
It's really fun. I actually really enjoyed it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
So it should
you're
be
going through a
fun.
chute or a tunnel. Yeah, it's great.
It's fun to drive. It's just it can be treacherous for people. So we'll see how those play out, and we'll be covering that as well.
Are
Uh,
you going to Coda by any chance?
I don't think I'm gonna go. I went 2 years ago, and I went for the whole weekend, camped out and everything, and it was a lot of fun. But it's just it's I don't know. It's expensive, and it's on road courses, especially that one. You don't. There's not any seats where you get to see a whole lot of the race. You just get your
Eh,
section. And I feel
right.
like I see even less of the race than if I just watched it on TV. So I don't think I'm going to do it again. It's an experience to do every once in a while, but don't need to do it every year.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. So let's see. This week in Southern Racing Network. So that was at Nashville Super Speedway, and that is one of my favorite tracks. However, I will say I do prefer it at night when there's not as much heat and there's grip in the track. And I noticed that we were in the day. It was about 75-degree ambient, and I think 110 to 115 track temperature. And it was eating up tires. Now it wasn't slick and greasy like Las Vegas was. I'm sure you remember that. Um, but
Oh man.
yeah, that was rough, but it was eating tires. The difference between a night race and a day race in Nashville, just to give you an idea, was a second of time per lap on brand new tires. And then once in the day when you started racing, to say 15 laps into your run, you were almost a full second off of that. And so it ate up tires. It was a wild ride for the drivers. Now I will say the race was excellent. There was zero cautions in 125 laps, and if you follow iRacing at all, or you race in iRacing officials, leagues, hosted, whatever, you know that that is almost never going to happen. And it did, and that just kind of it speaks to a couple of things, and the first and foremost is just the caliber of drivers that SRN has in the league. They are respectful and are not going to race somebody just for one position, or just not wreck them, I should say. They'll race them, but um,
Yeah, it's a great group. Like camaraderie on the Discord. It's awesome. We have folks that are, contributing little trophies. I think we at Nashville, y'all had a bottle opener, crafted by
yeah.
wood.
So
Yeah,
somebody does
that's so cool.
woodworking, and if you watch Nashville Super Speedway in NASCAR, the trophy is a guitar, and so he made
Yeah.
this little wooden guitar bottle opener and put on like Nashville Super Speedway winner and mailed that to Bobby Hall, the winner. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a great group. I mean, the real positive vibes all around. It's like it's a real pleasure to race. It's unfortunate I had to miss Nashville. I did not want to, but life sometimes gets in the way.
It happens.
But I plan on not missing a race from here on out, and I can't wait to, drive this season.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't get an interview with Bobby Hall. We just didn't have time to make that happen. And we had interviewed him before on our first podcast because he was one of our first race winners. So he's got a couple wins under his belt now, and he's having a good, strong season. That whole Flex Motorsports team does pretty darn good. So they're going to be somebody to look out for in the season and give us, the rest of us, some competition for sure.
Yeah, the way his season is going, you might have to just go ahead and make him a co-host.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely will have plenty of opportunities. But I think as we see repeat winners, I think what we're gonna try to do is get some different people on, so so we can feature some people that aren't necessarily, finishing in the top 5 every week or winning, so everybody gets a chance. I think that would be fun for those guys as well.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see Foothills. Maybe get the Iceman in here.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, we got to get Iceman or Chris Barker too. I mean, one of those guys.
Yeah, Jeff
I
Ledford,
mean,
that'd be awesome.
those guys are going to win eventually, though. They'll be in here eventually for
Oh
sure.
yeah, for sure.
It's
Only a
only a
matter
matter
of
of
time.
time. Chris Phillips was really good in qualifying at Nashville and was really good for a few laps, but he ate his stuff up quick on that first run. And because there was no cautions, he never got that opportunity to get that time back, and it really cost him. But that happened to a few drivers. I mean, it was tough, and everybody was like, man, there's a caution coming or something. And we did have one time, I don't remember who it was, but they kind of slid through the corner and or through the tri-oval and kind of into one, hit the inside wall, but then just flipped it right around and kept going. So we kept it green, which is good because we were on a good run, So there was that one opportunity. I'm sure there was at least half. If we had pulled the drivers, I guarantee you at least half of them would have wanted there to be a caution. But maybe everybody in the top 5 was like, nope, keep it running.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Chris Phillips is a real threat at the short tracks.
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
always found that. Yeah, and then I tend to excel personally in these green flag runs. I feel like I underdrive the car and
Hmm.
then, hope at the end of the race that, I got something left.
Yeah.
So Yeah, it's unfortunate I missed this one because I feel like that would have played right into my strengths.
Well, that played out in Iowa. I mean, I think you started like what 19th or something like that. Like, just
Oh yeah,
didn't even. I don't know if you even qualified, but and then
I was 2/10 off
yeah, you're
the
two
qualifying
tenths
time.
off in qualifying, which puts you back 2/3 of the way back in the field. But at the end there,
Yeah,
you were second and third, and unfortunately got wiped out. We kind of covered that last week, but that was definitely a bummer. But the league is you can kind of speak on this too, but the league is just for as new as it is, it's just really a lot of fun, and the lack of people arguing on the radio and the lack of people having issues with each other's or the team rivalry that gets taken too far just makes it so it's just clean, fun, relaxing racing.
yeah. Hopefully not speaking too soon because we got a lot of racing ahead of us. There's plenty of time
Oh yeah,
for yeah, some tempers to flare.
that's true. That's very true. Um, Anyways, so our top five from Nashville Super Speedway: Bobby Hall takes the win, Chris Barker gets second, Wes Weigen takes third, Alex Healy in fourth place, and I actually ended up in fifth. Don't know how I got there, but it just happened. Alex Healy and I and Wes actually had some good racing there, going back and forth, and it was a lot of fun. Some of us were close to each other, others were very much spread out, and so that was a lot of fun racing with those guys. I think that Chris Barker and Wes and Bobby, even Alex, everybody that finished in the top five has like been there at the end of every one of these races so far. So I really think that we're starting to see like who the players are here and who's kind of going for that top three of the season, and it's starting to shape up with these guys, and so it's going to be fun to watch going forward. So tune in to Extreme Sim TV on Wednesday nights, and you guys can see a good show there. Points for the season, and I'll just caveat this by I mentioned it last week as well. There's two drops in this series, and what that means is that there's two of the worst finishes are not counted for points, whether you miss the race or not. But what that does is it gives the drivers the opportunity to miss races and not have it really count against them, as far as being taken out of the points. So the points right now are a little bit off. There's a little weird because there's a race or two that isn't being counted. But what we have right now is Alex Healy is in the lead, Bobby Hall is second, Chris Barker is third, Chris Phillips is in fourth, and then there's a four-way tie for fifth, which is myself, Dan Worthington, Bobby Grady, and Wes Weigen. So once we get past this next race, which will be our fifth race, which means we're a quarter of the way through the season already, which is crazy. Then the points will start to actually be true, and kind of we'll get a better picture of what things are going to be. So yeah, looking forward to that. Let's talk about next week. So next week is going to be a fun one. 80 laps at Indianapolis. Anything can happen there. It's a different kind of track. What are you looking forward to that one? You like that track?
Yeah, I like Indy. Indy's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and leagues past, I've had shots at winning at Indy, and it's kind of tricky. Every turn feels a little different, and those high speeds down those two main straightaways, kind of.
Yeah.
There's
Even
tire wear is a factor.
Oh yeah, and even 1 and 3, although it's a complete, I don't know, lack of a better word, it's a brick. It's like,
Yeah.
uh, even though they should be pretty much identical, they do act differently. And then of course 2 and 4 are different because you just came off of 1 and 3, right? So it's a fun track. It's different. That's why I kind of put it in there because it's something that if you haven't done it before, it's going to be completely different for you, and you probably should practice because people who have raced there quite a bit are going to have an advantage. But it's easy to make a mistake there too. When you have worn tires, it's easy to overdrive it up into that outside wall.
Oh yeah, and pit road entry. Now look out for some danger there. I
Yeah.
expect mostly green flag racing, kind of like at Nashville.
Yeah.
But yeah, pit road entry is intense. You come straight off the turn 4 and you dive right down into the.
Yeah, and
It's
it's
not like
and it's
IndyCar where you go around.
deceptive.
Yeah,
Where it's like, oh, it looks like I got a ton of space, but you need to
no.
start backing it down. And a lot of guys get caught not backing it down early enough, trying to get an aggressive in, and they end up getting that black flag for speeding. So it's that can also be tricky. And I would imagine that there's a pretty solid chance that we're going to be pitting under green during that race. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Then we go kind of short track at Dover, back to Kansas and Texas, and some regular NASCAR tracks, if you will. So, going to be a good run here, and looking forward to it. Let's see. So, I think that's. Oh, okay. So, kind of a bigger announcement. We are going to be starting a GT3 series. It is not in stone yet, but it should be a lot of fun. It's going to be a fixed league. It's going to be, I think, 14 weeks starting on the 27th of February at Daytona, and then we'll go Spa, Canadian Tire, Monza, Coda, and we'll do a bunch of other races too, which we'll cover when the time comes. This is going to be on Thursday nights, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. We're going to do 60% fuel, 1 fast repair, and 1 set of tires. So in a 45-minute race, they're all 45 minutes. 60% fuel means you have about 35 minutes of fuel. So you're going to have to pit. The question is going to be, are you going to get that set of tires or not? Or did you already have a problem earlier and have to use them? So I think it's going to be pretty fun.
I'm not going to share any secrets about pitch strategy because that's going to be my advantage here. So
Absolutely
I'll let y'all
not.
figure it out.
I wouldn't either because that is so the way it's set up is that is going to be the key. You know, you could be dead on with another driver, and it doesn't matter if you're racing for first or 10th. It don't matter, but you could be dead on with another driver, and the in and out of the pit stop and what you decide to do in it is going to make all the difference because you're not going to need a ton of fuel. So, you know, tires are probably going to cost you a little bit of time, but a couple seconds maybe. Are you going to do 2? That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, front or rear axle, right or left sides.
Yeah.
You have that option in sports car racing.
And
So.
and it matters if you're front or rear engine too, because that's where your weight is. So which tires do you want? So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's actually going to be broadcasted straight on SRN. I will be doing the broadcasting myself on that one. So that should be interesting. I'm not going to be a driver. I'm just going to be a owner and broadcaster. So I've never broadcasted a road series, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's going to be a learning curve too. So that'll be on YouTube on SRN. So check it out. That's all I got. What do you got? Anything else?
Oh, no, thanks for having me. And I really think everybody should come out and do that GT3 league. Find some friends who like road racing and make endurance teams and do special events together. I think it's a great opportunity to meet folks who are interested in road racing, even if you've never done it before. It's really, really fun, especially if you get teams together to go endurance racing. It's a good experience. I know Matt and I have done a whole lot of it, and we're learning a whole lot. But it makes you a better driver for sure.
Yeah, and on that note, like we're capping the I rating at 3,000, and it is just made for development. You know, it's fixed setup, and it's just going to be, just go out, have some fun. I don't want to say it's a beer league because we don't want people out there getting stupid. You know what I mean? But it's just have fun and get better driving. So, looking forward to it. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We will catch y'all next week.